And how are you, boys and girls, wherever you are? This is Teacher Ferdinand, and today I have a particular lesson for CRE in Standard 6. CRE Standard 6. So far we had looked at different topics, starting from the topic of creation. We had checked, we had already learned the topic of new life, and we have already learned the topic on helping the people with special needs. Christians help the people with the special needs, you see. And we looked at all those things. So where we are supposed to pick is from this topic, a responsible life. The chapter is living a responsible life. Living a responsible life. And as well as a Christian, and also as a people, there is a lot for us to discuss here in this particular topic. But keeping in mind that all the things which we are discussing, there are some of the things which you have checked in the previous classes, but because it's a new unit, we are also going to meet some new things right here in this particular chapter in class 6. So welcome on board, and let us concentrate. By the end of the lesson, I'm also going to give you a reference activity for you to do in your CRE book. So if you're talking about the chapter of living a responsible life, we have to start by asking ourselves, what is the meaning of a responsible life? What is the meaning of a responsible life? And this one can be explained in the following ways. Meaning of a responsible life, it can be explained in the following ways. First of all, it can be explained by understanding who we are in terms of the following. One, our abilities and interests. In order for us to live a responsible life, we have to understand our abilities and interests. What are we capable to do? Our abilities and interest. What do we enjoy most? You see. So for you to live a responsible life, you have to understand your abilities and interests. We also have we have to look at our acceptable and unacceptable characters in order for you to live a responsible life. A life that pleases everybody in the society is what you are calling a responsible life. You will have to know the acceptable ways of life and the unacceptable ways of life in the community. You get me, right? Because in order for you to live a responsible life, you have to know the do's and don'ts in the community. A responsible person will always do what is required. And as a Christian, we know very well that doing things which are not required in the community is not good. And biblically is a sin. We are breaking the Ten Commandments. So also meaning of a responsible life calls for us to understand this. We have to understand our feelings and how we relate with others. How do we feel about ourselves? And how do we feel about others? That is also something that we need to check on wherever we are talking about a responsible life. Our feelings about ourselves and our feelings about others. We also have to look, in order for us to live a responsible life, we have to look at our behaviors and seeking our goals. Our behaviors and seeking our goals. This is actually part and parcel of the introduction of this chapter about living a responsible life. So we had to look at the meaning of responsible life. And I've just mentioned some of the key points here which we have to look at in order for us to live a responsible life. But as a people, as much as we are looking at these things deeply, we also have to keep in mind that at the end of the chapter, we have to look for the possible questions which we might meet in this unit. We are not going to take a lot of time looking at them, but as a matter of fact, as far as they are important, we have to look at them with the best way we can do it. So under this topic, the first thing that you are exposed to, that is in CRE, that is primary CRE, page 72 to page 73. That is primary CRE, page 72 to page 73. The first thing you're introduced to this topic is acquiring self-awareness. That is our first subtopic in this chapter. The chapter of living a responsible life. Our first subtopic is acquiring self-awareness. Or in other words, some people call it self-worth. So you can call it self-awareness or self-worth. So the first CRE question we have to understand here, what is this self-awareness we're talking about? In order for you to live a responsible life, you have to acquire self-awareness. But do we understand what is self-awareness? Let's see what is self-awareness. Self-awareness is understanding oneself. Having maximum understanding of yourself. Do you know yourself? Do you know your abilities? Do you know your strengths? Do you know your weaknesses? Do you understand the relationship of you and God? That is when we talk about self-awareness. So this is when we accept that we are God's perfect creation. Are you aware of yourself that you are perfect God's creation? What a wonderful thing. It is a CRE lesson, but you feel like you are in a Bible class. You feel like you are in a Sunday school. What a good lesson. Self-awareness. The first thing is accept that we are God's perfect creation. That is one thing. The other thing that we need to understand about self-awareness is feel good about ourselves. Can you think? Do you feel good about yourself, Imani? From time to time, do you feel good about yourself? Or you wake up in the morning with that distress, with that feeling that something is not good, and yet you have not even started the day? No. Feel good about yourself. That is one thing about self-awareness. In order for you to live a responsible life, you have to feel good about yourself. Realize that you are important in God's sight. That is something you need to be aware. You have to realize that we are important in God's sight. As much as we're talking about this subtopic, about self-awareness, you have to be aware that we are important in God's sight. So the other thing is that we are unique and created for a purpose. We are unique and created for a purpose. So in a CRE lesson, the other thing that we need to think about, and we need to think about it, every subtopic in CRE has got a biblical verse. And the verse we're talking about here, the memory verse is Isaiah, that is Isaiah chapter 43, verse number 4. In the Old Testament, Isaiah chapter 43, verse number 4. It gives you a very positive message about self-awareness in this particular chapter. As I said, I'm not going to take a lot of time because, as usual, the normal lesson takes 35 lessons, and the normal lesson takes 35 minutes, and the first 15 minutes actually is for explanation. And in CRE, we know very well that we start with human experience, biblical explanation, Bible reading and explanation, and we move on like that until we go to conclusion of our lesson. But because this is an online lesson, we have to take as much, we have to minimize some of the things and move on and make sure that we maximize the time we are given here, and we understand everything. The good thing here is that you can replay again and again and understand what the teacher has said. So I have talked about so many things about the subtopic on self-awareness. Today I have only two questions for you. Only two. Only two questions for this subtopic. In CRE, we learn a lot about the good news of God. But when it comes to exam situation, we have to understand in every subtopic what you expect, the kind of question you. So the two questions I would like you to do there at home. One, question one. List two ways that shows man is a special creature. List two ways that show man is a special creature. That is question one. List two ways that show man is a special creature. Question two. State a reason why God placed Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. State a reason why God placed Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. The two questions I have just chosen here, they are very important as far as this topic of living a responsible life is concerned. Although the questions sound like they come from the chapter of creation, but not really. If you are listening carefully, if you're listening to your teacher, I would like you to be very specific here. So in question one, as you list two ways that show man is a special creature, you just list two ways. And in question two, you state one reason why God placed Adam and Eve in the garden. Our next subtopic will be about identifying interests and abilities. Identifying our interests and abilities. Let us stick to our personal timetables and follow. Next, I'll be coming with another session about our next subtopic in this particular chapter of living a responsible life. Have a good day. I am Teacher Ferdinand and also a journalist by profession. God bless you.